you. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is March 30th, 2021. The time is 6 p.m., and this is a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen. This meeting is being conducted hybrid via Zoom, but also in person at Old Town Hall. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. It will be played on YouTube as well as Channel 9 on the normal repeat schedule. You can provide public input several ways, either via email, as listed on the agenda, the telephone number, and the Zoom link with the meeting ID and passcode listed on the agenda. At this time, I do want to take a roll call. Selectman Pacheco.
Present.
Selectman Goulart.
Present.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also present, and no members of the Board of Selectmen are participating remotely this evening. And at this time, I ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thankfully, we don't need a moment of silence.
That's right.
And at this time, if it's okay, I'm not sure it's an agenda item, but we do have Superintendent of the Bristol County Agricultural High School, Adele Sands, in our presence. Hello. And I do want to give you the floor. I know you have some remarks you'd like to share regarding Selectman Nancy Goulart.
I do. I'm sorry I was not able to be here for the big bonanza last time, but I did want to make a point of coming and speaking about Nancy and what she's meant to the Aggie and continues to mean to the Aggie, because she has promised me that even though she's not going to be sitting here anymore, she's going to be just as involved in the Aggie, which we are counting on. In fact, that's why we have this arrangement of flowers that the floriculture department sophomores put together today for her, so that she can plant all of this. And remember when it comes up in the spring what we do and come visit. So yes, they're all plantable. But I was trying to think of what to say, and as I was mulling through what I wanted to say about Nancy, every time I came up with something, I thought, well, that's not good enough. that doesn't speak to everything she's done. But I think to suffice it to say that Nancy has been an advocate for this school and for the students, all the students of the county, not just the Dayton students, but every student in the county, and she's taken care of all of us. When I first arrived, I was just in time to be welcome to Bristol Aggie, in time to try and get the advisory to vote on the building project. That's what I walked into. Knew no one. And Nancy was the first person to come over, tell me who she was, and tell me she was going to help us out and whatever we needed. And she did exactly that. She's been such an advocate. Every time there's somebody she thinks that we should meet or get to know, or some idea she has about how Bristol Aggie can partner with a group or an agency, she's on the phone to me, and she will be absolutely missed. Even though I know that she's going to stay involved, she will be so missed by the school, and we can't thank you enough. Truly, we cannot thank you enough. There is a big part of that building that belongs to you and all that renovation.
I got my name on it.
You have
Just the assessment.
Well, that's all I wanted to say, but I thank you so much for your service to the school and to the town, Nancy.
Thank you very much, Adele. One of the fondest memories I remember at that meeting when you were there, one of the communities was talking about withdrawing their students. And that's when I brought up Chapter 4,
yes.
74,
Yes.
tuition and transportation. Even if you withdraw, you're going to pay to send your kids here, so. But anyhow.
Do recall that.
Yes, but anyhow, we got it passed. And I got to tell you, I think of all the things that I've done since I've been on that board, because I wasn't on the board when I was talking to Mr. James about the easements we needed. I was a selectman. But I think of all the things we accomplished while I was on that board was finally getting the vote to build that North Campus. I mean, I think everybody on the board felt really good about that, except for the one that, you know.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
We did it anyhow. Thank you very much. Thank you for including us from the very beginning, because it was, I think during the transition, Steve Dempsey was retiring and you were coming, but the very, very first meeting, I was contacted and I took Tom Ferry with me, and then after that, I dragged Jim with me. I didn't have to drag him, but whatever it was, any of the meetings about the school, they were right there, and they've always been there. So we certainly appreciate the involvement and the joint projects we've had together, other than the bridge. There've been a number of them, so thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. I extend my appreciation to the Board of Trustees and to the commissioners. Thank you.
And thank you as always. We love seeing you here. So I did just want to announce for the public, I have a hard stop this evening at the special meeting at 8 p.m. So I will have to conclude the meeting at that time. With that, this is not related to public input at all, so you can speak and provide your public input as always. We are at the public input section of our agenda, so if you have public input, I just ask that you unmute yourself, state your name and address, and as always, be respectful. Okay. As always, we will have another public input at the end. Did anyone have anything? I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. Okay. Yes?
The Bunny issue, public input, or is
Nope.
it on the agenda?
We are just late, Mrs. Furtado. I apologize. But you bring us to our scheduled appointment with Susan Furtado of WAGS for a facilities request for an Easter Bunny drive-through on April 3rd, 2021. Mrs. Furtado, did you want to explain to the board your request?
Yes, so basically, in years past, we were able to do some fundraising events at WAGS. We did pet photos with the Easter Bunny at Under the Sun with a tremendous community support. Because of COVID, that stopped last year. Last year, we did a drive through town and realized that while we have a small town with a big heart, it's a much bigger town than you think when you're riding around with a bunny. So this year, we're reversing that, and our request is to be stationary at Town Hall and have the community drive through us, where we will hand out some treats for the human kids in their cars, socially distanced with gloves on. And we have some dog treats too. Again, the animals in the cars, driving through. We did get sign off. Thank you to Leanne, who actually did all the behind the scenes work and helped us to get all the signatures from all the departments. So at this point, it is just the Board of Selectmen signature that's needed.
Thank you, Mrs. Furtado. At this time, if the board has any questions for Mrs. Furtado, yield the floor. Selectman Goulart?
No, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request of Mrs. Furtado to use the facilities to conduct the Easter Bunny ride, I'll call it.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Under discussion, Mrs. Furtado, if you have a brief blurb that you could send maybe Mrs. Kerwin regarding this event that we could post on the website and on our social media accounts, that would be really great too.
Sure, will do.
All right. Thank you. And I will call, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I cut you off, Mrs. Furtado. There's a little bit of a delay. Selectman Pacheco, your vote?
Aye.
Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Mrs. Furtado, thank you as always for doing this.
Thank you all very much.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Selectman Pacheco, would you like to read the scheduled announcements?
Sure. Scheduled announcements.
Town of Dayton's public buildings will be open to the public by appointment only, beginning Monday, April 5th, 2021. Town of Dayton's public buildings will be fully open to the public on Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. The town clerk's office would like to remind everyone, early vote by mail is available for the annual town election on April 10th, 2021. Please call the town clerk's office or visit the town clerk's webpage for an application. Please allow ample mailing time for the application and for the ballot. Ballots must be returned to your local election official by Election Day. The Town of Dayton's food bank distribution will be held next on April 17, 2021, located at Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level as a drive-through. The Dayton Public Library has tax forms. Please call ahead for any forms you may need.
Thank you. And at this time, I would like to yield the floor to Mr. Administrator for the Town Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we do, I believe, have Mr. Cloonan with us on Zoom from the Dayton Water District to discuss the Congressional Community Project funding request relative to the replacement of the Main Street water main. There is a $3.85 million cost to the replacement of the water main, and the congressional requests are actually due the end of next week. So just really to lay the context quickly, Mr. Chair, there's been a lot of talk about the American Rescue Plan and what it is, and so how it all like the earmarks intersect with the funding coming out of the American Rescue Plan. But the plan itself, from what we know at the current time, is placing a really significant emphasis on water, sewer, and infrastructure projects. So we've been working hand in hand with Woodard and Curran. As a town, we know we have a few actually very significant priorities. One actually being the sewer expansion on 138. So and also our water needs as well. So at the outset of this, we wanted to make sure that, whatever we requested or whatever request that the town supported, actually weren't actually counterintuitive and didn't actually rule out another one. So in talking with the folks from Woodard and Curran this week, and even as recently as a half an hour ago, where we are on the sewer and the conversations we still need to actually have on the sewer, they've actually advised us that they believe in federal fiscal year 22, we will have the opportunity to really pursue some significant sewer expansion funding. And that at this point, especially with Superintendent Ferry, with the Highway Department hoping to move forward with the repaving of Main Street, they don't think actually having the town get behind the water main replacement project on Main Street would interfere with anything. So with that, as I mentioned, what the Dayton Water District is asking for is the town's support in forms of a letter of support. And with the board's, with how the board feels tonight, we could move forward with that and work with the Water District before the April 9th deadline, but also to actually make sure we're working with them to get other additional letters of support from our legislators, because that is a major project. And we want to make sure, hopefully, it's aligned with the repaving of Main Street. So, with that, Mr. Cloonan.
Well said, Mr. Mullin.
Hi, Mr. Cloonan.
We're just looking for we're not looking for any financial obligations, really just looking for your support, as Mr. Mullin said. Any letters that can go to our congressman in this project would be greatly appreciated, and I think would help go towards us possibly receiving the federal funding, the grants. As you know, the $3.8 million water main project, it could be more. I know it's not going to be less, and that's a significant amount of money for the size of our water district to have to put on the ratepayers. So anything we can get, I won't call it free money, but you know what I mean. Anything we can get from federally it's just going to be a huge impact for us and obviously the residents. So thank you. I appreciate any help you can give with support and letters.
Thank you, Mr. Clunan, as always, sir. So I just wanted to say that I'm definitely going to support the letter of support. I know that's saying that twice. I didn't know how else to say it. My big project as part of the Board of Selectmen's 5-year plans has been the sewer expansion. And my first concern before I knew any of the details was, did we have to choose one versus the other? And then it was explained to me as the town administrator had apprised everyone that it probably makes more sense to pursue sewer next year in some kind of congressional earmark. So I'm totally okay with that. I think that would allow the town the time to explore maybe not just Route 138, but also looking at the Route 44 business corridor, which again, the planning board is trying to have designated a business overlay district, which I think Mr. Pyers was also pivotal in. So I'm totally okay with this. I'm going to support it, and I think it buys our team a little bit more time to put the horse before the cart on the sewer expansion. So I'm really enthusiastic about this. I think my colleagues also know we've gotten a lot of letters about the quality of Main Street, and as we know, we just weren't able to pave it because there were a lot of water main issues that were recurring there. So I think this would solve that problem if we were to receive this funding. Anytime that the town of Dayton is able to get federal monies, it's more of us getting back that part of that pie that we've already all paid into. So I'm going to support this, and I just wanted to thank Mr. Administrator and Mr. Clunan for working so hard on this. Selectman Goulart?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Oh, did anyone have anything? I'm sorry.
I'm going to second the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue a letter of support to the Dayton Water District for any kind of grant funding or federal or state money that may be available to help cover the costs of the water main replacement on Main Street.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And thank you again, Mr. Clunan.
I got a question for you.
Thank you all.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
Colin, thank you, Selectmen.
Selectman Goulart has one question for you before you go, Mr. Clunan.
Jeff, as far as water supplies, do you think the district will be taking a look at that property on Brook Street that the town acquired?
Yes,
The western part of the Segregansett River.
I have to take a look at it, but my first thoughts on it is I don't know if we can achieve a 400-foot buffer. It's a small lot, right? A couple acres.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's feasible for public water supply,
Okay,
but I can look at
what I would say to you is, look at the wording in the deed, because the deed guarantees that water can be removed from there. So that's a big plus, okay?
it. Yes, maybe we can speak about it another time.
Okay.
You know much more about it than I do. So yeah, that'd be great if we can get together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, sir. Next on our agenda under old business. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have anything else, Mr. Administrator?
That is it. Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome. Under old business, we need to review, discuss, and act on the Brook Street Solar License Agreement. Selectman Goulart.
Yeah, this is the agreement that was drafted by town council that you have in your packet. This will allow the developer to actually cross town land and build a small culvert to cross a drainage ditch that belongs to the town. And as long as that solar farm is active, this license agreement will be active. If and when they decommission it, the last thing they have to remove is the culvert. The ditch will become the maintenance property, the maintenance responsibility of the town, and the fence that will be constructed will also be town property. But this has been approved by Attorney Costa, it's been approved by the developer, and all we need is a vote to authorize the board to sign it.
Okay. At this time, does anyone have any questions?
No, I read it and I support it.
Okay.
Okay.
I will entertain motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board vote to approve and sign the license agreement for the small parcel of land on Brook Street that belongs to the town with GHTJA 03 LLC of Dover, Delaware, who will be operating a solar farm on this site.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Under discussion, I just wanted to ask my colleague, is this an agreement that we will bring to the annual town meeting for ratification by town meeting vote?
No, this
Okay.
is similar to.
This is not a pilot, because I know
No,
it didn't
no,
have
it's
that
similar
language
to
on
an
there.
easement, except instead of us giving somebody permission, or paying them for permission, they need permission from the town to cross our property. And so it will only be effective as long as that, as I said, as that solar farm is operational. If the farm changes hands, the agreement carries forward. Once the farm is decommissioned, the owner of the real estate cannot use this culvert to access their property for another purpose. They would have to come back to the town of Dayton and get new permission to do it, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
I have no further questions.
And when they decommission, I think the culvert has to come out. Is that correct?
Yes, the only thing that will be left, obviously, is
The
the
fence.
ditch and the guardrail.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And good work, Selectman Goulart.
There will be additional safety signage there so that people traveling south on Pine will know that there's more than just a corner. And all of that is under the, has to be approved by Mr. Ferry, so.
And we took a vote
Yep.
just now. We did.
Paul says yes.
Okay. Sometimes when the discussion comes back, I'm like, did we just vote? I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay. On to the letter of interest for the one-stop portal, which you had apprised us of at our last meeting.
Yes.
You have the floor.
So yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll be very quick on this. You had a draft of the one-stop portal letter of interest that would go to the state. We'll propose outlining 3 priorities. One is the zoning assessment of the Route 44 in the Route 138 corridors. The second one was the replacement of the Pleasant Street Bridge over Muddy Cove. And the third one was the feasibility study of the Muddy Cove Pond Dam, both as a recreational space, but also as a potential water supply, actually the area as well. We did fill in, I believe it was part 2.3 and 2.4 since our meeting last week. I touched base with the assessor, so and other department heads to make sure we had checked all the applicable boxes that we needed to check. But this letter is due by the end of this week, and I want to thank Ms. Brady for all her help in working this, and Serpent as well. So if you have any questions, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Mr. Pires is here, so I noticed that you said that we don't have a certified housing production plan.
Yep.
Mr. Pires, do you remember we worked on the housing production plan maybe in 2018, 2019?
You did.
But
I even remember that.
that was when it was renewed.
But it was never certified by the state, apparently.
Well, it was sent up because we went through this before. Shortly after we had sent it up saying it was not certified, it indeed was sent up, and as far as I know, was certified. I don't know whether they're dropping the ball up there, but we did send it up, both hard copy and electronically.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's, I believe it's gonna be up again in 2023.
Okay.
For renewal. I'm not sure I believe it was Heidi Beckett at the time that worked with Serpent and myself and the committee, we had to get it done. I'm not sure what Carrie Easterday has for information on it, but it was submitted.
Okay.
Thank you.
So are we still gonna check off an approved housing production plan? Because we know at
Yes.
least it was approved.
Yes, I can check off that.
Approved, but not
Yes.
necessarily certified.
So when I can follow up with DHCD as well to make sure they have it, I can reach out to them before we submit this as well.
Thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you, sir. Selectman Goulart?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, I'm just,
I see we have 3 projects. This reminds me of the 3 best practices we came up with
well, we now have to do 3 more of those as well.
for community compact cabinets, so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good.
It is very good. Any further questions on this?
Nope.
Okay, at this time, I will entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen write a letter of interest for One Stop Portal.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco?
Aye.
Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And thank you not just to Mr. Administrator, but also to Mrs. Brady and our administrative team for their work on this. Very good news. Okay. Next on our agenda, I'm going to ask my colleagues if we want to move either to start discussing budget 300, simply because we have Mr. Kitchen here, and we can discuss the lieutenant job description when we do the police budget and just do it together rather than separate. Okay. So I will entertain motions to move item 7D, 300 education out of order.
So move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Mr. Kitchen, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I know we are under some time constraints. That will, I promise, be to your benefit. And at this time, I don't know, I wanted to just give you the floor. I just wanted you to be here. I wasn't sure if the board had any questions about anything. So here we are.
I think Dr. Azar is online also.
Hello, sir.
Hello there. Can everyone hear me okay?
Absolutely. How you doing?
Through the chair, if I may.
Of course.
I just had some brief remarks, if that is
Absolutely.
appropriate.
Absolutely, sir.
I appreciate that, Fred. Thank you.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, sorry and apologies for me not being there right now. Unfortunately, I had a family commitment at Bristol Plymouth and to go straight home. But nevertheless, here we are. So through the chair, what I'd like to first share is that, we really want to take this opportunity to thank the Board of Health from Dayton, particularly Todd Pillins, and also the health agent Rosalind Rossi. As you know, these 2 individuals are working just yeoman hours trying to keep us all safe. There's no question about it. And as I know the Board of Selectmen are all too aware of all the different activities, prior to COVID-19 that the school department puts in place, at Dayton Elementary, Dayton Middle, and of course the high school. So if you take all those activities in a COVID-19 world that we live in, the first line of defense to make sure those activities, the things that we want to try to do, are okayed by the local Board of Health. So you can only imagine at one point how much work that your health folks were helping us out with, in conjunction with our nurses as well. So Brad, I just wanted to make sure that was clear that, we owe a debt of gratitude to you folks, and particularly Todd and Rosalind and all the folks that helped them in keeping our kids safe. So we appreciate that. The second thing I wanted to share with you also is that we are positioned right now, as you know, to bring back all our kids at a 3-foot distance. And just the public awareness, of course, on April 5th, we'll be bringing back our pre-K to 5th grade students And then our seniors are coming back on April 7th as well. And then thereafter, after April vacation, we're bringing back all our students in middle school, grades 6 through 8, and of course 9 through 11. And one of the things that I wanted to share was with the senior class, as all of you are aware, this particular senior class, they were juniors last year when COVID-19 hit in March, that fateful day, March 13th, was Friday the 13th, when the governor declared the state of emergency and all the schools throughout the Commonwealth closed down. But we wanted to try to bring back our seniors this year because they've been really, really pummeled with all the social emotional piece of academic and that piece of their education. So, we're trying, to make some semblance of what the new normal looks like. With the vaccinations, the teachers and staff lining up to get those vaccinations, with the help of the CARES money that Paul will share shortly in a moment, we're looking to, and as you know, we've already upgraded our HVAC system well before COVID-19. So to the, patting everyone on the back in the district, that with our HVAC system and working with the Train Corporation, we were well positioned to bring back our kids and our staff members. And even with that, we're looking to continue to work with our train folks to move from MERV 8 filters to MERV 11. We're looking to get air purifiers in the classrooms. And at the elementary school level, positioning the kids and the seniors coming back by April 7th to be in a really good spot to do that. So I just want to make sure that folks in Dayton are aware of that, and I wanted to memorialize it during this meeting, that we appreciate the collaboration we always have, and this being my 7th year, Brett, if you can believe it, still standing, although I'm sitting right now, as superintendent in the district. And we would not be successful if it were not for, our two towns, and tonight, the kudos go to Dayton, of course, for all the work that you folks have done for us. So that is a backdrop. Paul Kitchen, who is present this evening, he is up. We are up time constraints as well, as you know. Paul serves on the board of directors for Bristol Aggie, so he knows Dayton as well as anyone, and how we coexist with Bristol Aggie and Bristol Plymouth and beyond. Just want to make sure that's clear also, that Bristol Plymouth and Bristol Aggie are opportunities for DR kids, and even though kids choose BP and BA, that to me shows that the educational system is working in our district, and particularly Dayton as well. So that's the backdrop. So I'll turn it back to the chair. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address the Board of Selectmen this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Azar. Mr. Kitchen, do you have any more thoughts? All right.
I'm very succinct.
I like that. Well, thank you both, in all seriousness. Thank you so much for being here and being able and willing to answer any questions that the board may have. Selectman Pacheco, did you have any questions? Did you want to start us off?
Nope.
And then Selectman Goulart, did you have anything?
No, we had a brief discussion, and Mr. Mullen and I met with Mr. Kitchen and Dr. Azar, so we had an opportunity to go over, and I think we discussed at the last meeting what we anticipated for state aid. Again, anticipated. We get closer, we'll find out where we are. But
I'll touch upon the revenues a little bit. With the Chapter 70 number, Chapter 70 number is approximately $79,000 higher than last year, so $79,950 for Chapter 78. The minimum contribution for Dayton is an increase of $67,340. Now, I had mentioned at our school committee meeting that we will have our select person, Goulart, had asked at our meeting if we have any federal money coming in. The ESSER 2 money, which is available July 1 for the district, it's about 807,000. What they're currently offering is that the minimum contribution will be offset by that amount. So in this scenario, it would be $67,000, which is it's not a significant amount to offset, but it also wouldn't put you in a difficult time next year. If that federal aid's not there, then you have to backfill it somehow. Whereas we're hoping that I would probably see the opposite, it's around $283,000, and that might be a bigger swing in 2023. So, and then in our regional transportation, it's based, according to the Department of Education, they're basing it on 95% of what you expended last year. So obviously our expenditures last year were reduced when we stopped a lot of our transportation on March 13th. So we spent roughly $1,035,000. Of that would be 95%. I put in $980,000 for reimbursement. I'm not sure what that will be. If it's not that, we'll pick it up with miscellaneous revenues and such. But to keep it on a level playing field or a hold harmless situation, I recommended to the school committee to increase an additional $70,000 out of our E&D to balance it from what we're getting this year, or what we put into this year's budget with next year's budget. So that way it would be, again, hold harmless. And then with the E&D that we certified this year, we reached the max, which is 5% of our budget, and we actually exceeded it by about $150,025. That figure has to go back to the sending communities. So that goes into our revenue assessment formula, and therefore you would deduct about $65,000 again from that. So that's already up the top. So that brings your assessment to where it is in the formula that I provided. So that $150,000 is part of our revenue. So we have our Chapter 70, we have our transportation reimbursement, Medicaid reimbursement of roughly $100,000. We haven't reached that in the year and a half that I've been here, but it's a more realistic reflection than what was previously put in there, $200,000. We have the energy credits, which was always considered an offset in the budget. So in the budget, what they've done in the past is deducted $50,000 of the operational expenses. And when you look at the budget, you can see that there's an increase of about $253,000 in that $7,000 account. It's not because we're getting all set on revenue by $225, because that's what the anticipated revenues are for the energy credits. So I put it as a revenue when I didn't take it as an offset in the budget, because it's kind of a misleading operational cost figure. Then again, we level fund our E&D at $500,000, and we would add another $70,000 for the transportation reimbursement of E&D, and then the excess revenue on E&D of $150,125. So the total revenues would be $15,061,911. And I'll be happy to, I followed up with Mr. Mullen last week, and I'll be happy to send over the PowerPoint that I presented to the school committee. So, in my conversation on the revenues and about using ESSER, it's really a determination of the Board of Selectmen. If they choose to exercise the use of ESSER, or ESSER 2, then we have no option other than to take it off your assessment. So the current assessment this year is $43,562 above last year's budget set by the Department of Ed and the assessment that we set forth. So that would be a negative assessment for over last year's assessment, if we chose to do so. I haven't reflected it in the assessment sheets, and I haven't asked the school committee to vote on it until both communities have an opportunity to, exercise that option. Like I said, your revenues are not down or down this year a little bit, and it might be beneficial with the anticipation of other federal money coming in to offset some of that cost next year. The additional federal money that's coming in through ESSER 2 would be available to the school district July 1st. That would go for 18 months, I believe. It's 18 months, I think it's till the following June.
First to 2?
I think it's 18 months from this July,
Okay.
so we go to January, I believe. Then you have the American Recovery Act. Therefore, the anticipated, or they refer to that as SO3 in the, I guess, on the Department of Ed, that would actually lead to 2 to 2.25 above that 800,000. It could possibly, I don't know what the figure is gonna be for a regional school, but it could be 1.6 million.
What can the district use the American Recovery?
I think it's
Plan
very open at this point. There's
Can
not,
it
I haven't
use
seen a
for
lot of
your
guidance on it, I
operating budget?
apologize, but, you know, they're, the web broadcasts, or seminars, or, that the Department of Ed really puts out more or less when it comes, you'll know. But I think everyone's gonna have an interest in how, and I can't speak for the school committee, obviously, but we have 3 cost centers in the district, so I think it's fair to say each cost district, each cost center has its an issue. We're addressing I hope to address some of those issues this summer with the E&D circuitry being so high, namely the track, the tennis courts, and possibly even the lighting on the football field, if we can get some type of lighting incentive. But with the other issues, and Dr. Azar mentioned it, that both the communities and the regional school committee had the foresight to do a lot of the maintenance on the buildings. There are issues, and we've had discussions when I came in last year, and it might do with the road design. It could be doing with some of the, maybe even the egress in the buildings or security in the buildings. The elementary school has some issues with hot water, so that would, we have one large hot water tank, which really isn't a large hot water tank, and several smaller issues around it. So it would be beneficial, I think, to have an assessment done, and make sure we have enough hot water within the building, and possibly even looking at, and Mr. Ferry's been fantastic, I have to say that, and so is Jim, but, they come to the building when we need them, and we had some septic issues, or not septic issues, but discharge issues, I'll say, last year. So, those are issues that we're looking at, that I'm aware of on the campus.
That may be able to be addressed.
Yeah, I would, because,
Okay, that's good.
and I talked to Mr. Mullen, I view all this money as one-time money, just like E&D, stabilization, capital funds.
Same. I mean, we're talking about using some of it for, water main upgrades that have been, should have been done probably ages ago, but now we're getting around to it because of this one-time money. So same here, we're in the same boat. Anybody else have anything else? Or Mr. Kitchen, did you want to highlight anything else while we're here?
No, I think, last year, select person we had a statement, my first time out, we had 214 pages, and that's not considered a budget. I think this year we narrowed it down to about 26 pages, and it identifies all the needs for the 45. The total cost, and I because it's usually the way I think about the total budget is the budget and capital is $45,266,316, which is an increase, like I said, in the bottom line of about 686,000, but that also includes that 253 that we're putting in, so revenues would offset that also. So, but I'm available if anyone has questions on it.
So for right now, it's the 11,155,432 capital and operating. That number's still good
Yes.
at this point?
Yes, it could be 67,000 lower if you choose to exercise.
Less?
Yes.
I see Mr. O'Connor's there. See if there's anything.
Chairman O'Connor, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I didn't want to overlook you. It's hard to see who's on the call from over here.
Oh, no, nothing. I think Paul nailed it. I apologize for not being there tonight. missed on the invite that it actually said in person. I thought it was so otherwise, I would have been there. I would have no problem coming.
No
So
worries.
my apologies. But I don't have anything to add. I'll cover it with Bill.
Thank you, sir. Anything else, Selectman Pacheco?
No, so should our first motion be on the ESSER grant to apply that?
You want us to explicitly vote on?
My understanding through the Mass Association of Regional Schools, municipalities, is that the action is basically, your way. So you move first.
Okay.
They follow. So,
I'm gonna suggest we wait until we meet with the finance committee, because
Okay.
Ed said they're gonna be meeting in April. Because I had sent the email, out to, Mrs. Sands and to, Dr. McGale saying, we're not gonna meet with you right away, we're gonna meet with DR, because obviously that's the bigger budget. But, probably when we meet, because the finance committee will wanna know what Paul just told us too. So that way, we can vote when it's final, because if we vote tonight and they decide, the finance committee has another recommendation, so I think we ought to just wait for that meeting, because it will be coming up soon.
Did they send us the recommendation though? Did I see that?
For,
Mr. Swartz, on the ESSER grant?
yes, there is an email that I did forward along to the
Oh, I'm
board. That Mr. Swartz is feeling at the current time as the chairman is that the ESSER 3 money do be applied, that $67,000 do
Oh.
be applied.
Yes, he did reach out to me about that too, actually. No, I'm sorry, you just, that jarred my memory.
My only point was, it wasn't a vote of the finance
correct,
committee,
yeah.
that's all.
I just think it's a no, just for me personally, I just think it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen too, I do.
Okay, I will entertain motions, at this time.
So are we still gonna wait for the finance committee on the ESSER grant, or are we gonna vote on it now? Or
I'm prepared to vote on it. We have posted meetings with the finance committee, so if we want to change our mind, I think, in accordance with their action, then I would think that we would have the ability. to
How
do that.
about if we approve it tentatively based on,
the recommendation? of the
confirmation
finance?
by the finance committee? That way, if something happens in the meantime, we'll be posted, we can, well, I will be, but you'll be posted and you can change it.
You can be there for your input.
I know, I'm talking like she's literally gonna be there.
Yeah.
I'll be in the audience.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we tentatively approve, is it 67 even?
That's what we have here.
67,340, 67,340? Is that the number? That's the number.
$67,340.
All right, that's the number you mentioned. That we tentatively approve the $67,340 be used as explained, to,
Low minimum contribution
to reduce the minimum contribution for Dayton
through ESSER
through ESSER 2.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And do we want to act on the budget request from the DR Regional School District,
Okay,
the
I'm
assessment?
I'll make,
I'm gonna have to redo the assessment anyway.
Oh, okay. With the 67?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you wanna wait till after the April meeting with the finance committee, then I'll,
We can
I
act
can
there.
give you a new assessment.
We can act there if the board is amenable.
I don't know.
Or if, I'm open to
So if I
anything.
could, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
basically the current assessment, Mr. Kitchener, we basically gonna back the 67,340 out of that, and that'll be the assessment. So if you want, I mean, for the purposes of moving through the budget, I can do the calculated math right now, so at least we'll have that.
I'm also doing
Yep.
it. $11,088,092.
But it's quicker than I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is that correct? No.
Oh, I
sometimes
stopped
I'm
when
not
you
right.
started speaking, sorry.
Don't take my word.
Yeah. Did you do it in your head, or?
No, absolutely not. Definitely be wrong.
$1,088,092.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve, I'll do tentatively approve since we do have to meet.
The other two as well.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we tentatively approve the total DR capital and operating budget of $11,088,009,
Yes.
no, 90, wait a minute,
90.
092, was that
Yes.
the? $11,088,092.
There's no change. I'll second that motion.
We have a
One
motion.
sec, 1 second. 11,15432 minus 67,340. There's 3 people using phones. 67,340.
That's your number.
Oh,
Because of this, because of the 150. So that comes at,
$11,088,092.
Correct.
you can take out the 150.
what 150? Sorry. So then we would also back out the 150.
Not the 150, but the 67%. Your assessment currently is, because of the use of the excess revenue, well, the 150,025, the assessment is only 42,000 above the last year, so that gives you 11,090,846. And I can go with this tomorrow.
11,090,846.
Yes.
Mrs. Brady, would you amend that motion so that the number is the total capital and operating? Tentatively approved at $11,090,846. 11,090,846. Okay?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So,
Hearing-
No, that's your current one. If you choose to use the S, you're gonna drop it by 87.67.
Hearing no further discussion, Selectman
So-
Pacheco.
Just want to make sure we get
So-
the right figure.
so,
You can take that out.
11,090. Yeah, but that's where we already were though.
No, you weren't. You were higher.
Sorry, this shouldn't be this. 11,023,506 and what I can do, so it's 11,023,506.
Okay, is this the final answer? Okay.
This will be the final answer, but what I'll do after this meeting tomorrow, I'll follow up with Mr. Kitchen, and we'll make sure we're exactly on the same page about how we got here, so we're understanding, because the math is jumbling at this point, so.
Correct.
Brady, you get that figure now?
Okay.
So, aye.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. The board voted
Yeah, we'll follow up
unanimously.
tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
are a patient man, sir.
No, I think the was basically that the original assessment did not have in 150,000 for the excess above E and D.
Correct.
Which would have dropped to
Okay.
65, and then
That's-
you would drop another 67.
Exactly what happened.
But we'll always take the lower number, Mr.
Yes.
Kitchen.
Wise man.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Azar and
Thank you.
Chairman O'Connor, thank you as well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Chairman, could I just ask one more, something that I'd like, hopefully he's still on the call.
Yep.
Our assistant superintendent, Joe Corrali, joined us for this fall. And I don't think we've had the opportunity to introduce him to the Dayton Board of Selectmen. So Joe, if you're still on,
Let's buy him up.
Hello, Mr. Paralia.
I am, hi.
Hello.
I guess my wife's name showed up on the.
hey,
We forgive you. So I had the pleasure of meeting you for the first time formally when we did the DR marching band scholarships last year. I believe it was last year or the year before.
Right, yeah.
So I would love to introduce you to my colleagues, Selectman Ken Pacheco and also Selectman Nancy Goulart.
Nice to meet you both.
Yeah.
To meet you.
Did you have any remarks you wanted to make either about the budget or about, just a formal introduction? Anything?
Just, again, to echo what Dr. Azar and Chairman O'Connor and Mr. Kitchen said, just we really appreciate the support of the town of Dayton, and we're working together. It's shown that we've come through a really difficult time, and I think it takes this collaboration to work together and provide an educational experience for our kids, so I just really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all for joining. I know it means a lot to us, just for our partnership between the town and the district. So we appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again to finalize our vote at the Finance Committee meeting in April.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night. Absolutely.
So should we go to the Board of Health since Mr. Pius is here?
Absolutely.
Want to make a motion that we go to 7D, account number 510, Board of Health.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Sir, you have the floor. And I do want this to be short. We have literally an hour left, so no more than 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, I guess that depends on the board. We had sent a letter in today requesting the reconsideration of certain budget items in 510, 519, which I don't know whether you've received a copy of it or not. And my first question would be, are you receptive to reconsidering these budget items?
I'm confident with my vote from last week, but I don't know. I'm only one person, so.
I'm also confident I vote. Right, if you want an opportunity to speak on it.
Yeah, I'm not going to shut anyone out.
No, no, I want to hear what you got.
Okay, very good, thank you. Just a few things, we did send in previously and again some supporting documentation that we feel is pertinent to our original request in our budget, which I'm not sure you were in receipt of the first time or not. Is the board in possession of a letter dated January 27th to the Board of Selectmen regarding reevaluation of office staff?
I have it.
Yep.
Is the board in possession of the agent, Board of Health agent salary survey, March 21? And finally, I'm sure you must be in possession of a copy of the first budget we submitted.
Yeah, that's in the departmental report.
Okay.
Yep.
I did have an opportunity to watch our last meeting regarding our presence and non-presence. There's a few reasons why we didn't attend. One being a letter we received from Board of Selectmen staff in the office telling us that we did not have to attend. I found that kind of odd, but that and combined with our first experience in a meeting with the acting town administrator that you're aware of, I'm sure. That being said, that we were supposed to level fund and no more than a 2% increase. So we being the team players that we are, and being Daytonians, and feeling the burden of tax just like everybody else here, we were naive and we changed it as requested. So that happened shortly after our original budget was submitted. And one day preparation prior to last week's Board of Selectmen meeting, we were sent notification of the meeting. One from Mr. Mullen at 12:45, more or less, and the one from the office staff was at 12:12. I couldn't figure that out either way that happened. I don't know if we were the only ones that received it. I don't know if other people received it. But all I know is it was addressed to Mrs. Grassi, Mr. Pilling, and Mrs. Brady. So I don't know how else to take it, other than say, well, I guess we don't have to be there because of our budget.
Yeah, not everyone was there.
It's level funded, it's under 2%. So as I sat and watched the meeting, when I think we were giving out candy to some departments were given additional hours, departments were given additional wages, some pretty healthy wages, and which is the reason I'm here tonight, to voice my concern on if we're going to level fund, or if we're going to hold wages to 2%, it should be across the board, as we were told, and not just for a select few departments. So, if you would like to discuss the budget, I'd be more than happy to do it. I'm hoping that I've had the opportunity to read what was submitted as supporting documents. The biggest surprise that I got was the latest salary survey. We're looking at our health agent, who was well below the salary range. Okay, all right. It's well below the salary range surrounding communities. The budget we submitted, and I'm discussing 510 now, salary health agents, was for additional hours and additional wage. Right now, Mr. Pilling's present wage is $36.31 for 28 hours weekly. The request was for $38.13, a $1.82 increase. We all know what's been going on in the Board of Health, how busy we are, not just with COVID, but on a day-to-day basis with everything else. So we requested an increase of 7 hours, up to 35, and a $1.82 increase. Our hope was to get 30 hours in the Board of Health and 5 hours in stormwater, because presently he doesn't have time for stormwater. 3 hours is just not enough, and 28 hours is not enough for Board of Health matters. So, that being said, I'm comfortable with submitting a budget that I think is reasonable and still below lines of other communities. Now, if you took a minute and see what's going on there and read the 4-page document, then I don't see how you couldn't agree. I understand we're COVID, we were told we have no money, but the meeting I watched the other night is contradictory to what we talked about. So that's my argument on that one.
So I don't know why you're saying that you submitted a level funded budget, because that's not what's here.
I understand.
510 is a 26.42% increase over last year, and 519 is 6.94. So you didn't submit a level funded
No, we
budget
didn't.
in the first place.
But it was our understanding, after the conversation that they had with the acting town administrator, which is yourself, that it was going to get changed regardless of we did it Well, who did it?
I can't change your request.
I
All I
understand
can
that.
do is make a
Then why did you
recommendation.
say it?
Because I told everybody the same thing. That's the email I sent to every department. We understand that sometimes you have to give percent increases over what is level funded. Some things are contractual, some things are based on a collective bargaining agreement. I can't control that. I just said we're in a tough time. I'm asking everybody to please be mindful of that. We don't know what we're gonna get in receipts back from the state, in reimbursements either. I understand, but you're saying that you submitted a level funded budget and it was never level
We
funded.
did it in the beginning, you know, most of our non-level funding.
I just said I wasn't gonna support the exact thing that you had requested, that's all I said. The board can support what you requested, I'm just one person.
Exactly.
So,
So I'm
If-
here to appeal to all three of the board tonight, because I think we were misinformed and misled.
I don't think you were misinformed and
Well, I
misled.
do, I'm sorry.
The only person that got a big, in your words, salary increase was the conservation
Were
agent.
there hourly increases
But
in
we-
other departments?
Absolutely, we
So where
need,
is-
we
where is
need
the
Mrs.
level
Kerwin
funding?
to continue
And where
coordinating
is
all
the
the Zoom
2% wage
meetings.
increase? I'm not gonna get into a debate, either you can discuss it, vote on it, I have more information to go on with. The 2% for the members.
The only person that got a big salary increase, in your opinion, was
It's
Mrs.
irrelevant.
You brought it up though, so I'm just correcting the record. It was the conservation agent, and it was because that person got hired hastily because someone was retiring. And then they brought new information, and that's why we changed our mind at the last meeting.
It's been here 4 months.
It's not the person, it's the role. And they were a prior employee
So
as
are
well.
we saying the person that interviewed and hired this person to get all that wage is not worthy of what she's even getting? Is that what we're saying?
I don't understand.
Then there's a problem.
I didn't follow that.
The health
I didn't
agent
follow that.
interviewed the conservation agent, that's what he's saying.
Okay.
So I got a question. When, the first budget I'm looking at had a total of $78,450.40. In that salary line, there's a number of $70,530.24. Is that the number that is 35, go to 35 hours a week and $1.82 per hour?
Correct.
My personal feeling at looking at that and reading what I'm reading here is, first of all, I can't see us doing anything on Department 519 because it includes a union salary. So I'm
I'm in agreement with that.
And the other thing, other reason is because we've had a couple of elected department heads who have said that we should have a wage study of union employees. So this position falls under that contract. We deferred doing that study until we got a town administrator, so that's still out there. But going back to the budget 510, I would support the health agent, additional hours and that increase, because I know what he does. I know what he does for the Stormwater Committee.
With 5 hours, you, as a board, in line with the 5 hours for stormwater and 30 hours for Board of Health? Because right now it's 25 and 3.
The three don't work, as we know when the plans came in, and he had time, we had to defer it until he had a chance to read them.
I saved the town thousands of dollars in stormwater reviews. Ms. Agia has saved the town thousands of dollars in stormwater reviews. We have some people here that are top-notch professionals that are not compensated properly. So, you know, I don't think $1.82 for a PE, and yes, he was hired, he knew what he was getting into, but this is 4 years later. And, you know, I could say, well, we're just simply underpaid. but that's not enough. I think he deserves some credit, and both the office manager also. But I will agree that if we can, and I think we have a commitment from this board, that we will be doing a wage study if it passes financially at town meeting.
I supported it. I said,
Okay.
I said publicly, but I'm gonna disagree with you on one thing. I think the town of Dayton pays their employees fairly, and I think we're a great place to work, and I think we treat people well, so I disagree, and I don't think every time someone gets more hours or more money, someone else is always gonna point the finger and say they should get something too. That's the way it is. I accept it, but at some point, I have to draw a line, and we can't give everyone everything. And when someone gets something, it's not a slight to someone else. It's not. So I support the vote I took on the conservation agent.
You don't consider knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs, in making decisions on wage increases in someone's position.
I think I support the
So
townwide
everybody's
wage
over that.
study. I support the townwide wage study. I look forward to doing it, and I will take
So do
action
I.
based on what it shows.
Last time it was done in 2008.
And I've been the biggest champion since Town Administrator Aaronstein left for it.
I'm glad to hear that.
So whatever it shows, I'll be happy to support.
I think part of the situation we're dealing with is the fact that the conservation agent position was given a very large increase. I think when you look at the education, the responsibilities, the capabilities, everything else that those two positions hold, I'm not talking people, I'm just talking jobs. I think they're comparable, and I think they should be compensated comparably. I mean, I know what they do. Yes, I'm glad we got both of them, and that's why I support this. Even at this rate, he will not be making what she's getting.
No.
He's still gonna be under what we gave her, all right? And like I say, I'm glad we've got her. She's a part-time employee.
Internally. And the other board members, after discussion, came to 3813. I don't know how we came to 3813, but, because it's such an odd number.
Something else I want to add, and I'm not sure everyone realizes this, and I've said this before. Both of these individuals have jobs, separate and distinct. Both of these individuals serve on the Stormwater Committee. None of us on that committee can operate alone. There are times when I need Mr. Aguirre, I need Mr. Ferry, I need whoever, okay? We had a site visit last week. I was out there as Stormwater, Conservation Commission, a couple of members. The conservation agent was there. We were looking at a situation that was kind of a combination of everything because there were violations involved. When we go on site visits like solar farms, and then when we're all done and we stand around, each person, whether it's Mr. Aguirre, Mr. Ferry, whoever, stands around and tells the developer, this is what I want. And it relates specifically to what their area of expertise is. Then we put that whole thing together and get all of that put together and tell them this is what you're going to do, this is what's required, this is what you're going to pay. Because without that, they're not going to get a stormwater permit. They're not going to get a building permit. So I think the collaboration that has to take place also has to be looked at. That's why I'm saying, if you're going to talk PE and you're going to talk conservation agent, because I know what they do as far as what they do involved with my involvement and with that committee, I think they're comparable, and I think they should be compensated comparably. You're
Okay.
under that right now.
We've been
But-
talking about this for 20 minutes, so it's 7:15,
So
and
I
I have
haven't had
45
an
minutes left.
opportunity to
Yeah,
speak, so-
absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
I'll speak right now, please. You can speak shortly. So, when you say he's working 28 hours, he's actually working more than that, right? Because you have the CARES,
Due to COVID.
right. So we have actually increased his hours because of the CARES, it's covered by the CARES Act. But that, at some point, hopefully, if people wear their mask and everything else, that's going to end. So I'm just concerned.
The workload is still heavy.
Well, we've gone from 20 to 28 in 3 years. I think he's actually working more than 35 hours, right? Yeah, no, I think he's working more than 35 hours, right? Yeah.
He is.
We need to get away from the characterization that if someone doesn't get the request they want, that the town of Dayton is not a good place and we don't care about our employees, because you know me and you know that's not how I am or how I feel. I don't like you standing here and saying that that's how I feel because of the way I voted. I don't like that at all. And I would never characterize you that way if you didn't grant someone's request.
It was relayed to me, I'm just stating the facts as they were given to me with the documentation I have. I think he's getting a raw deal. I think the Board of Health requires more hours. I recall years back, okay, we don't want to give you more money because of the workload, but we give you more hours. So what happened to that? I mean, we just gave someone $10 more, but you didn't give them more hours because of the workload.
I tried
It's
to.
contradictory. It
I tried
contradicts
to.
itself.
That was, excuse me, that my request was more hours.
I'm just
I don't know
speaking
how much
everybody
of the
now. I'm
meeting you
speaking
watched,
directly
but
to
that
you.
was the
I'm talking
part.
to all three of you here. The whole thing has been contradictory. We just want what's fair and equitable. and
But it
not-
wasn't
not
contradictory. You
disparate
never
treatment.
submitted a balanced budget. The increase that you submitted for the health agent is 30%. It was never
We
balanced.
expected to bargain that down, but when we saw, I didn't expect to get that kind of money. But when we saw what's been happening the night we gave out candy,
It was
It's
two
ridiculous.
positions. It was the administrative assistant got
People
5
get
more
more
hours for website administration because
Alright.
people are asking us to keep things hybrid, so I understand that. And then it was the conservation agent.
so it
Who
wasn't across
else?
the board, correct? Everybody didn't get the same treatment. Am I correct?
Everyone got 2% for the most part, except for the conservation agent.
Everybody got the same treatment, no?
Yes, everyone got the same email and the same treatment.
You think?
I know.
With a $10 increase an hour? Is that same treatment as what we're getting here?
You're comparing apples and oranges.
No, I'm not.
They were hired
Okay.
hastily. We had no time to do a salary. We're going in circles, and I'm not going to go in circles, and I'm getting the final word. We hired that individual hastily because there was a retirement, sir. You cannot compare that. He's gotten 8 hours more over the last 3 years. What
does
is the
retirement have
problem?
to do with that? I know it's gonna cost money. You should have planned for it. I'm
I
sorry.
did plan for it. I gave the
Okay, good.
recommendation that I think is needed.
We have money
So
for it.
I'm fine. I'm
fine
fine
too.
with my vote, and I'm not going to change it.
Fine.
So if someone would like to make a motion to change what we did last week, I'm happy to entertain it, but I will not be doing so.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak, please?
You may,
Who's that?
Mr. Bernardo.
Please identify yourself.
Yes, hi, this is Kevin Bernardo, Board of Health member. I apologize, I'm on Zoom, I was trying to get in. I just wanted to stress to the Board of Selectmen that during the time of the budget, we as the Board of Health, had assessed the need of our department. And at the time, we felt Todd was working way too many hours overtime, and he was constantly going over his allotted hours because of the COVID situation and all his other job duties. So as a board, we collectively decided that 7 hours additional would be appropriate to meet that demand. And that's what you see, the majority of that increase is in that 7 hours. We also did increase the pay as well, but what you're seeing is the 7 hours that we felt was appropriate. In regards to the office manager, I actually got to speak to the union rep, Joe McCardle, and he had mentioned to me that the procedure is if an employee job duties have changed or additional job duties are added, then they can seek a pay grade or with approval of the selectmen. So that's where we wanted to address that. We had set aside that money, which would be step 7, in anticipation of if that went through, we would actually be covering ourselves on that. So we didn't just come up with these numbers, we actually assessed it as a group. We voted, and we wanted to make sure moving forward that our department, the hours were covered, and we actually valued our employees as well. So that's what you're looking at.
Thank you, sir. So at this time, I will entertain motions regarding the Board of Health's budget or their reconsideration requests.
I'm going to make a motion that we reconsider the total Department 510 account as it was originally submitted to $78,457.40, which would allow the health agent to go to 35 hours per week, and it would be with a $1.82 per hour increase.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So, the motion is just to reconsider, it's not to vote on the actual number of hours and salary, is it?
Well,
It is.
No, it is, because the budget was 78, it was reduced to 63.
Yeah.
My glasses is steamed up. So the reconsider that I'm asking for is to bring it back to what it was.
What the original
The
proposal was.
original
Yes.
request.
Yes.
If I can just briefly speak on that then, so
Yeah, of course
I'm
you
not supporting that. I do think, after the pandemic, we may have to reconsider the increase in his hours, because of, there still is other work that he needs to do, but right now, he's working more than 35 hours. So I'm not at this point, willing to increase it to 35 hours, given the present situation with the pandemic.
But this would be the 1st of July, correct?
We're talking, so you're in favor of $35 July 1?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is,
So you're saying you want to keep it at 28?
if you let me finish, okay, Mr. Pius? What I'm saying is I want to not increase his hours to 35 hours. I want to see what happens after the pandemic, to see, because that's a lot of his work right now, and under the CARES Act, he's actually getting compensated for it because he's actually working probably close to 40 hours, if not more, on contact tracing and other stuff. I'm saying I will reconsider it after the pandemic to see what the needs are for the Board of Health, but I'm not prepared at this time to increase the hours.
So
I'm not sure if we're going to be debating this.
So I understand what you're telling us.
What I'm saying is, I don't know how many hours that department's going to need after the pandemic. I am willing to look at it again, in fairness to Mr. Pilling, but I'm not going to increase the hours right now, because right now he's being covered by the CARES Act, and he's doing
I understand that.
more hours, but I understand how you want that in the budget, because if we reconsider it later on, you're going to need the money.
If all of a sudden we have a miracle, like, I don't want to go there.
No, there's not going to be any miracle,
You know.
even though it's been,
And it suddenly ends. Do we go to fall town meeting for additional hours to fund it? Can we do that?
You could go to the annual town meeting and ask for the departmental request.
My concern is that, of what the Finance Committee's going to say. They don't like having those things come at a fall town meeting. They want all of the, let me say, raise and appropriate things as much as possible, which is salaries and fixed charges, to all come up at the annual, because that's the balanced budget we aim for. As you know, when we have the fall meeting, that's when we look at the other stuff, or back in the old days, when we didn't have the money to do everything for the annual, we did have some residuals that we had to take to the fall town meeting. We've been trying to avoid that, all right? So, if it's not done by the annual town meeting, yes, you can bring it up in the fall. The chances of it passing could be slim. I think if it doesn't pass the board here tonight, your best option is to go to the Finance Committee, just as the librarian did, the library director did a year ago, and she took it to town meeting, and she was successful.
That was my next question. Oh, my next statement on my list.
This is the last, literally we've spent a half hour on this.
Okay.
We haven't heard from the town administrator yet. I don't know if he's.
Yeah, no, we're not hearing, you're getting the last word and we're moving on after this, and I'm taking the vote.
Right. So I'm going to be taking the first budget before it was changed.
It was never changed, it's literally still here, do you see it?
It's still here.
Literally in the green
The
column.
first budget is what is going to the Finance Committee.
Great, fabulous, thank you.
And to town meeting if necessary.
Yep, and you can stand up there and you can advocate for what you believe in, and I don't begrudge you that at all. Okay, Selectman Pacheco, your vote.
No.
I'm a no. Selectman Zagrafos?
Aye.
Selectman Goulart? Okay, thank you, everybody. Next is the,
Oh, did the town administrator have the town administrator have a recommendation?
So with respect,
feel like
the
I'm
board
putting him
just
on the
voted. With respect, the board just voted, so I'll follow I'll follow the recommendation of the board. But I mean, I did meet with Mr. Pyers, Mr. Pilling, yesterday. Certainly the salary survey is helpful, and but.
and if I'm wrong, and we're drastically, I want to tell you this on camera, if I'm wrong, and we are drastically underpaying our employees, which I don't think is what the salary survey is going to show, which is why I'm so supportive of it, I will be the first to apologize to you, Mrs. Grassi and Mr. Pilling, and support the increase that the salary survey shows, okay?
I know one employee's getting drastically underpaid, so
But
that was your decision.
he's not part of that salary study. He's not union.
That is a good
It's
point.
supposed to be,
He's not in that.
Mr. Mullen, I believe, said was union and non-union, correct?
I don't believe it's non-union. When we did the.
It is just
When we
union.
did the clerical, it was understood it was gonna be the non-union. I mean,
But we
the
could
union.
certainly use his 4-page survey and consider it all at the same time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your consideration. I apologize to Mr. Aguirre.
You know,
Taking up all the time there.
thank you.
Okay,
Have a good night. I want to
See you, Tom.
you too.
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman, you don't
yes.
go out of order up
Mhm.
here. You just write the rules.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You could be here a long time.
Yeah.
You're one of the last budget items.
Okay, I want to move to the police, I want to go back to what we were on, which was police lieutenant job description, and I just want to keep this conversation to the actual description and not any figures, okay? And then we can, if we agree on this, I think we can move on to further discuss that salary item and others under the police department budget.
Yeah, so I was okay with the job description. We're not talking salary, but the job
Yep,
description.
not salary, not yet.
No, I didn't have questions. I've seen it.
Mr. Administrator, I'm sorry, I'm like so in the habit of being at the meetings for the last 5 months without one, so I used to turn to Madam Administrator and ask all the time what they thought. Mr. Administrator, did you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the police lieutenant job description?
No, I did not, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, I will entertain motions, unless Chief McDonald, sir?
Yes, I am on. Good evening, everybody.
I saw you on. Did you have anything you wanted to add before the board acts on the police lieutenant job description, sir?
I don't, no.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the police lieutenant's job description.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Okay, Chief, thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely, sir. So now I wanted to discuss the 5109 lieutenant salary, if that's okay with my colleagues, and let's zero in on that, and then we can talk about the 210 police department budget maybe broader before we take a vote. Chief, you had done a survey based on local towns, and you had apprised the board that the salary range is $95,683.97 to $99,053.13. I know you put the higher end figure in here. I had to do that with the town administrator's salary budget, salary line, not knowing, what it would be when we did the contract. So, does any of my colleagues have any thoughts on what they would be comfortable supporting for a lieutenant salary?
I'll put more line of 90,000, but I would like to make sure it's high enough above the sergeant's salary.
Understood.
One of the things we asked for, what was the lieutenant in Rehoboth getting? And the chief said he'd have that for us tonight.
Well, in Rehoboth, okay, they did have a lieutenant at one time. They did away with their lieutenant, and they made a deputy chief. So right now, they have a chief, a deputy chief, no lieutenants, and it goes right to sergeants. Their deputy chief makes about $120,000 a year. First year being a deputy chief, they're paying him $120,000. So looking at the wage things with different departments, I'm gonna say it's between 89,000 and I put the high number like Dr. Z said, the 99,000. Why I put those figures is that I feel that if you look at the job description of this lieutenant, he has a lot of responsibilities in here, okay? It's a lot of work. He's gonna be taken out of the union, he's gonna be non-union. We should come up with a contract for this position, whoever it is. So looking at the salary range, I know Selectman Pacheco just made a number, a figure, but I was hoping it would be at least the 95 to start. So that's my recommendation, that I feel at least, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but the $95,683, that's what I would like to see it be at the start at.
Okay. And board thoughts? I'm sorry, I'm just leaving this as an open discussion. You don't have to ask for permission.
So, that's not counting an education incentive, the salary too, so it's actually.
No, it's not.
So it's actually gonna be higher than that. I would be
Good
willing
point.
to go, yes, I would be willing to go, my recommendation would be 92,000.
Chief?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear him, Dr.
Yeah, my recommendation is 92,000.
92?
Yeah.
Selectman Goulart, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
So do you have any beginning salaries for any lieutenants anywhere, like Somerset, Swansea? Somerset must have them.
They definitely have lieutenants.
So
and
what
captains.
do they pay a first-year lieutenant?
It's in the 90s.
They're pretty highly compensated in Somerset compared to Dayton, I will say.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that a lieutenant would start at like 89 over there.
You think so?
In
But,
Somerset?
You know, you're looking at all different departments where you have, how many men are on that department, how their rank structure is. So it's all different. I mean, you've got different departments, different things. So, I don't want to really compare to other departments.
Do any of the communities that you looked at have a lieutenant on each shift?
No, a lot of them, lieutenants are on, one of the shifts. A lot of them, Selectman Goulart, they're sergeants.
They have a bigger chief. You know that, just for Selectman Goulart, they have a much bigger department than we do. I believe they have 35 full-timers, something around there, don't quote me. But they also have a completely different structure because it's a bigger department.
Yeah.
So they have captains, they have a captain, then they have lieutenants, then they have sergeants, they also have sergeant detectives. So it's a much bigger department. Am I correct on that, Chief?
That's correct. And you look at Rehoboth, they're running with five men on a shift.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of officers on their department.
So they have
And-
probably
and,
a
you know-
sergeant on every shift in Somerset, for example.
So,
Yeah, Somerset would have a supervisor on every shift. Swansea would too.
so my recommendation is $25,000 more than what the sergeant makes, which I think is a pretty good increase. I understand all the responsibility that a lieutenant has, they're non-union, but that's 92,000 to start, not counting the potential, was it 19%?
Oh, I'm
incentive?
supporting. I was just giving the information.
no,
I'm
I'm just
sorry,
saying.
Selectman Pacheco.
I agree with Selectman Pacheco, but and he's right. The 92,000, then whoever gets this job, this title, if they have college degree or anything, yes, it's gonna go up. He's correct. That's exactly what will happen.
Mr. Administrator, do you mind letting Mrs. Tavares in the?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. She's just been waiting. I don't want her to leave. Does anyone else have any comments regarding the compromise figure, I guess we'll call it, of $92,000 for line 5109?
Are there any other stipends that a lieutenant would be paid? For example, do we pay extra, say, for a training officer or for a, I don't know, whatever else kind of officers we have?
Yeah. So right now, Selectman Goulart, there's different jobs that guys have to get stipends for. So there's the IT officer who gets a 10%. Now, this is the union, and you have to be in a union to bid for these jobs. So if a lieutenant is not in the union, then he can't bid for the jobs. It's a union job. So it's an IT job. We have two schedulers. They get a 5% each scheduler. It's 10, but they get half. We have the detective who gets a stipend. The SRO gets a stipend. But all those jobs that they do beyond being a police officer, it's a union job. It's in the contract. So if the lieutenant is non-union, then he wouldn't be able to take those jobs.
But, excuse me, he would be, excuse me, oh, I'm doing it now. That individual would be eligible for things like details, provided that a union member didn't first take it. Is that correct?
Yes, if we do a contract, like I said, there's a contract that's going to be
Understood.
given to these lieutenants. We'd have to sit and, like my contract, I can bid for details after it goes through the whole department union. If it's available, I can take the detail. I can't be in that rotation to take that detail. So if we were to sit and make a contract for lieutenant, that was one that he couldn't work details, so it went through a union.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, just a quick question, Chief. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. So 45109, we're looking at a proposed $99,000 line item. But different from, say, your line item, there's a separate line item, I believe, for your educational incentive. So, and we know that 5106 for the salary officer for the full-time, that also includes basically placeholders for their educational incentives as well. The 5109 doesn't have a corresponding line item that includes any other type of benefits or education or anything else. So what we're talking about, we're talking about if the lieutenant has an education, there's no corresponding line in the budget right now that would fund that. So as I've been understanding it, that salary, because it would be a contract salary, as written or as being discussed right now, that is $99,000, or to Mr. Pacheco's point, $92,000. But there's no offset or additional funding in the budget for any type of educational incentive unless I'm missing something.
No, there's not. So if you do a 5109 and you put $92,000 and we put a lieutenant in someone in that position and they have education, that's not there. That's gonna make it's gonna be more if he has a associate's degree, if he has a bachelor's degree, or master's, whatever this person we choose. But that wouldn't show on that line. No, that's just a salary of $92,000 that we want to give him that pay. That's not included if he gets, education. I think that's what you mean, right, Dave?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure, yes. I just wanted to make sure that was understood because we were talking about something over, so a $92,000 or $99,000, but right now, the budget as presented, so it's not actually reflected. It would be that number and that number alone, if that makes sense. Board, okay.
Yes.
Chief, one other question. If a union position, one of those extra things that pays a stipend or a whatever, if it is not filled by anyone in the union, is it available to the lieutenant?
It could be. It could be, you know, I mean, I don't know how to answer that because I've never had that issue before.
No, I understand that, but my only thought is if there is something that's requires something special, and whoever's doing it decides they don't want to do it anymore, it becomes open. Anyone can bid on it, but if nobody takes it, it's got to be done by somebody. That was my point. So that's why I was just wondering.
So in a case like that, well, I'm gonna use, let's use the SRO. I'll use that one, okay? So, even though lieutenant wouldn't be the SRO, but I'll use that. So, the officer who's the SRO now, and he decides at the end of this year, school year, and he gives me a letter saying that he doesn't want to take that position anymore. So how it works is, I would put out a memo, anybody interested in that position as an SRO, you know, let me know in writing that you want that job. And if no one does, what happens is that the guy who was the SRO has to stay in that position. He cannot just say, I don't want to do it anymore. He has to stay there.
Oh, okay.
So am I correct that a non-union person will also get the education incentive?
The chief gets an education
So
incentive.
that's what I'm asking.
But it's his
Yeah,
own,
it's a town policy.
it's in his own like line,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a line item in 5157.
Okay, so we need to include, if we go with my figure 92,000, we need to include an education incentive in the budget.
Precisely.
So like
Unless the
Yeah.
person comes from within the police department and it's already budgeted in the stipend line.
That's a good point. It could already be there.
If it's filled by an in-house person with
Oh,
a
yeah,
degree, it's
yeah.
already budgeted.
I agree, okay.
Okay, I think that
Yeah,
solves
that's a
it.
good point.
And if it, by any chance it's an outside person with a degree,
We'll figure
then
that
the
out.
money's gotta be added.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a motion that the
Sure.
salary be $92,000.
So 5109, we're gonna put 92,000?
Is it
Okay.
5109?
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
We got, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. So in terms of the total budget, when we go back to figuring out to vote on a final number, right, for 210, when I did my math, and I definitely need Mr. Administrator to help me with this, I reduced the departmental request by $7,053.13, which is the difference between what was put in here and what we just voted on. And I came out with, for a total departmental number, revised, $1,909,813.59.
Bingo.
Did you get that too?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Right
I didn't
here.
even think about asking you. Yes.
Right there.
Okay, awesome.
It's a $7,000 difference between
Yeah.
what was budgeted
Okay,
and change.
so,
Can we vote on that budget then?
yeah, I will entertain motions. Chief, did you have anything to add before we take a vote on your department budget?
So you just brought up that figure, Dr. Z. Is that the total budget on
210,
210?
yep. We haven't acted on communications yet, chief.
Okay, so can you just repeat that
Yeah,
total,
of course, chief.
please?
It's $1,909,813.59.
Before we vote on the budget, total,
Yep.
the last meeting you asked a couple of questions.
Yes.
One was about
Yes.
20,000. and the other one was in overtime. So did we remove the 20,000, and did we do anything with overtime because you wanted an offset against this particular new position?
I wrote those on a different sheet, so thank you so much for bringing that up. I was looking at a different one. Chief, before we take a vote on that new total, I had a couple questions at the last meeting. I'm not sure if you could hear Selectman Goulart just now, but Selectman Goulart, did you want to ask them to the chief, just to
Okay.
make sure we get them addressed?
Chief, at the last meeting, Dr. Z asked you if you could reduce one line item by 20,000, and we said if we had to, we would put it in a future budget. And the other one was reduce the overtime because you're gonna fill positions, and we would have an offset, hopefully, against this new position at 92,000.
And the 20,000, chief, was in 5155 benefits, vacation, sick buyback.
Okay, so, getting to the budget here. Do you guys have in front of you the full-time officers line for FY '22?
I know what it was.
Total?
Yep.
What do you have in front of you?
Brett,
$1,021,079.40.
That's the old
All right, so.
number.
Chief,
It's the old,
Yes,
Chief, the 20,000
Yeah.
is for a retirement that we don't have. So the first question was, can you take the 20,000 out? And if by any chance somebody says before the fall meeting, they're retiring, we can put the money in for it. If somebody decides they have to retire after that and it's too late to raise and appropriate, we would have to either find it in the budget or transfer it from reserve. So that's the 20,000. It's a retirement that we don't know anything about. The other one is
On
overtime.
that line, the 5155, just level funded it again, 25,000.
Yeah, but we had a retirement we were planning on, which we aren't doing right now.
So are you proposing to, instead of proposing the $54,968.77, just to do the flat 25,000? And then the reason I'm asking is because I had a very specific figure written down here, and I think it was based on our conversation. I had $33,080 was what I had.
All right, so that's what I had put in, but TA Mike, when we had that meeting yesterday, do they have this budget that I kind of went over again with you?
Yes, it's on the screen and it was in the packets inside. Yes.
Oh, I can't really see it. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so what we did, if I can, Mr. Chair, just based on last week's conversation,
Thank you.
the chief and I, members of the department, along with the town accountant, we knew that we, based on our conversation about revenues and where our expenses were, we knew we had to do some trimming. So what we did, just really to update the board and the public, so for the 5106, the salary line, there was an additional proposed officer that the police department proposed for FY '22. There's another vacant position now that we discussed the priority of having filled first before we go forward. So we took about $72,000 out of that line, 5106, on the overtime line. The chief was, he felt that $250,000 overtime line was very much validated, but based on the discussion last week and based on right now, the hypothetical, and all it is a hypothetical potential any retirement, because it was only hypothetical, we brought the buyback line down from the $54,900 to $25,000, and I know there was very good reason for including the $54,900 in the budget, but Oh, we were trying to make a lot of balances and trade-offs in that conversation.
So what did you decide on? I can't see that, I'm sorry.
So for 5155, 25,000.
Okay.
That would be level funded, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And given these changes, rather than Selectman Goulart and I getting out our calculators, can we have like a, if we're all,
I don't have a calculator.
okay, I'm sorry.
So the town accountant has.
She's got
a
long
spread-
division going on over here. Do you have like a final figure that you can give us for department total that we could potentially vote on?
Yep. So
'Cause
the
it's-
department.
It's 750 and we have
Yep.
gotten through nothing.
So the departmental. So the departmental total is gonna be, and if the town accountant can do an exercise, so we're both doing the same at the same time, it's gonna be 99,053.13 minus the 92,000. That's the $7,000 $53.13 difference.
Okay, can I ask you a
Yep.
question why we're doing this? When he has the sheet
Oh,
and all he has to do is update everything and it'll gonna spit us out a total. There's a formula already, so it's gonna save us so much time.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Town accountant Chris?
And it'll be accurate. That's the
Hey, hey.
second benefit.
I thought we were getting along great, Monsieur Agua.
No, I'm just trying to save us time because it's
Yeah, no, so all the pressure is on town accountant Chris right now.
Oh, we call everybody by those names now? TA Mike,
Yes, Chris.
Town Accountant Chris.
Yes, Chris.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I moved the $92,000 into Mike's recommendation for the lieutenant's.
Yes, yeah, that gives us a true number, Chris. I agree with that.
It's Murphy's Law, Mr. Laviolette. Maybe it won't save us time.
Seeing the building commission thinks it's us, but it's always when the pressure's on.
Okay, I have a new total.
Yep.
All right. 1,808,844.82.
Doesn't that sound better?
Would you repeat that?
1,808,844.82.
Now, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
And I trust your numbers. I just knew that was
No,
going to be
it's
quicker.
perfect.
Does anyone have any comments on the total, the new total for 210, or do we want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the town administrators on account number 210 in the total amount of $1,808,844.82.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and under discussion, not to belabor the point, but just to confirm with the chief. With this tentatively recommended budget from the Board of Selectmen, this would include you, chief, all the full-time officers that we have as of this fiscal year, plus the 3 sergeants, plus the lieutenant, correct? And the reserves, obviously, all our reserves. Okay,
Not the office, all the positions, because he
Correct,
hasn't
yes.
filled some of them.
that's right.
Yes,
That's fine.
Positions.
yes.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we fill the position, and then, as far as the sergeant, now let me talk about, can I say something about that?
Yep.
So what happens with the sergeant is, we will have 3 sergeants eventually, but now there's gonna be a negotiation with a contract.
Yep.
There's things in there that I'd like to change in there, so I'm looking to put that other sergeant probably in the fall sometime, okay?
Okay.
It won't be probably July, but it'll probably be in the fall at some point that there'll be that 3rd sergeant, okay?
Thank you, sir. All right. Selectman Pacheco, your vote.
Aye.
Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Next is 215 communications, and I honestly forgot what we were even holding on this
Hey,
for.
what's 122 Board of Selectmen? What have we
Yep,
got?
we're gonna go back, because that's, we got the budget from the
Oh,
human,
all right,
the
okay.
request from the Human Rights Committee.
Now,
Yep,
Dr. Z?
yeah, I was just wondering,
I believe the communications, there was a question on where the IMC software was $20,000.
oh, okay, yeah. No, my specific question to you, Chief, was, it wasn't about questioning what it was for or how much it was. It was asking why it's in your budget and not in the data processing budget.
Yeah, well, we got this software back in 2007, and it's always been in our budget since we got it, okay? So basically, the IMC is shared by us and the fire department, and we try to get a quote before the new budget comes out, and we got a quote of $19,574.75. So I don't know if there's anything different that the town has a line for that they can put in that. It doesn't have to be in this line for the communications, but that's just the way it's been, Dr. Z, for years and years.
Chief, I'm okay with it being there, but maybe we could strategize. Me, you, and TA Mike can sit down. We'll go through everything. And then I'm doing it now. I'm sorry. Us with the town administrator will sit down and we will go through and we can figure out for next fiscal year's budget if we want to move that to data processing going forward, okay?
That's fine with me, yeah.
Alrighty. Do my colleagues have any questions regarding 215 communications?
I don't.
It's the same as last year, same as this year.
Yep. Deja vu, right? Groundhog Day. Selectman Pacheco and Selectman Goulart, I will entertain motions regarding 215 communications budget requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the communications budget requested for FY '22 at $390,946.13.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Chief, thank you for being patient, and thank you for the work that you did, not just with me, but also with Mr. Administrator on getting together the job description and putting together the salary figures that we requested. I appreciate you.
Yes, I thank those two guys, and my staff, I had a couple of people we sat and looked it over, and I think it was a great team effort, and it worked out well.
Me too, sir, and I look forward to having a lieutenant. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I thank the Board of Selectmen for that. I really appreciate that. It's long overdue, and I thank you, Board of Selectmen, for that.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, because I do want to get to this. I know I said that we'll have a cutoff of 8 p.m. I'm willing to go to 8:30 if everybody else is, but I want to streamline it, and I want to at least get through the Commission on Disabilities because I feel like it's the last one, and maybe the building commissioners because I don't think those will take long. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So up on our agenda next is 549, Commission on Disabilities. And last time, I bungled that conversation, and I didn't realize we weren't supposed to have a conversation because Mr. Gale and other members of the Commission on Disability were not present, so I just wanted to apologize, even though obviously we definitely made no decisions and we wanted to speak to you all. So I did just think it was appropriate to give any member of the Commission on Disabilities or the COD coordinator the floor. Either Mr. Gale, Ms. Dudkowski.
Sure, it does look like Mr. Gale has his hand up. I just want to defer to Jonathan if he wants to speak first.
Yeah, you can, either or. I'll give you both the floor. You can both speak.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to speak tonight. We did meet as a Commission on Disabilities last Thursday, and we readdressed our budget concerns, taking into consideration the concerns around keeping our budget as low as possible in order to mitigate the burden for this year. I just wanted to note on 5580, that is title, oh, I'm sorry, the screen changed.
Someone's moving it. It's not our town administrator. Who is moving it?
Chris, Telecom, Chris.
I'm sorry, I'm getting conflicting information here. Which budget are we looking at, please?
We're on Commission on Disability. 549.
549.
Ms. Dudkowski, you were speaking about line 5580 and how it was compulsory?
Yes, that's compulsory. That is auxiliary aids, and it falls under Title IV, which are just basically any services needed for our ADA coordinator to complete their job. So that's where that 4320 is. It is compulsory under the law. Professional and technical, we understand that we may not be able to have the professional development line this year. We had that conversation with TA Mike, and it may need to be reduced just to the minimum. And office supplies, obviously, we're looking mostly at postage and things like that for communication with folks in town. For the ADA coordinator stipend, we had originally put in 15.6, and I think there was some discussion last week about that. When we came back to our table last Thursday to speak about this, we did make a decision to reduce that to $8,000 for this year as the stipend. We felt strongly that this position had been underfunded for the last couple of years. And there's quite a bit of crossover work and cross-collaboration that our ADA coordinator is responsible for. So we wanted to make sure that that was funded in a way that the town could support, but also in a way where we were valuing the position and the work that needs to be done there. Jonathan, are you with us?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was having a problem with my computer.
It's okay.
I think you guys wore me down for the past hour and a half, and I couldn't log in the right way to talk. But what I was going to say was a couple things. First of all, with regard to our budget and hearing what I heard, overall this evening, I think what's important to start with is a couple of things. And I will be as brief as I possibly can, knowing your time is tight. One is our original budget context started with a total of roughly, if we put everything out there that we wanted, about $22,000. And that was the 15.6 for the coordinator's stipend, and then the 4320 that's just been discussed, as well as money for training and for resources for the coordinator and for the commission members. We, knowing and having conversation with the acting administrator of the town, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, agreed to reduce, first of all, to take away the figure for training and so forth down to 0. And then as we had further discussion with the town administrator, total of almost 3 hours between myself and Mr. Chkowski with the new town administrator, and thank you, Mike, for all of the time you provided to us. We agreed that it was necessary to take that figure down even further. So I think the town administrator would agree that, first of all, as he alluded to in our conversations, based on the job description of the coordinator, not the commission members who are volunteers, but of the coordinator, the actual job description and the responsibilities in many ways actually significantly exceed what the ask is here for the roughly $8,000 for that part of the position. The other part of it is the responsibilities that are also required of the coordinator under the proposed bylaws. Now, I want to emphasize that the job description, the vast majority of it, and the vast majority of the criteria in the proposed bylaws are both qualifiers that are required by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Office on Disability in order to have a disabilities commission. So much of the work that the coordinator does in leading the commission of volunteers is behind the scenes, and that means the commission is doing volunteer subcommittee work, but the coordinator is working directly with all of the different town departments on various aspects of procedure, policy, administrative components, and so forth, as well as supporting the individual residents who have many, many issues and questions regarding disability matters. Those are specific issues in many cases that the coordinator cannot share with the commission members because they're not employees of the town. So those are the things that have to be handled privately under HIPAA or other state and federal requirements. Similarly, the coordinator is also working within the school system to support a lot of the aspects and the programs that are going to be put forward or have been put forward by the special ed programs in the school, by the special ed coordinators at all levels. Not just accessibility, but by many aspects of other things going forward, if you will. We also support much of the work of the Board of Health. An example, obviously, as you all know, is we've been able to schedule many people for vaccinations. In fact, we've had a number of people through the scheduling we've done that have already gotten their first shot and are waiting for their second shot. So we've done a number of different things. We continue to do a number of different things. The the actual breakdown in terms of hours for this, the coordinator's position right now, we're budgeting and still are budgeting for 10 hours per week at a minimum. I frankly think as time goes on, it will take much more than that. We're beginning to work with different, as I said, committees in town, different town offices and so forth as well. We've also been writing grants. We've had some grants approved. We have other things in the works. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, or if Ms. Chasky has anything, or are there any other members of the commission on the line with us who would like to add their thoughts briefly?
Yes, I just wanted to let, it's just a comment. I thought I had deleted what I had put in the TA recommendations line, so I don't know why it's still there. I know we have to approve, as it's compulsory, 5580, so obviously, you know, I'm okay with that. But I don't want those recommendations to lead this conversation. I had meant to delete them. I really want this to be an open discussion. Selectman Pacheco, I know you are the Board of Selectmen's liaison, non-voting, to the Commission on Disability, and I think it's pertinent to have you, if you'd like, to start the discussion.
Sure. As the liaison person, I am supporting the recommendation of the Commission on Disability for the budget. I'm glad that they were able to, unfortunately had to reduce it, but I'm supporting the new budget. As we all know, when I initially proposed an ADA quarter stipend back in October of 2019, the recommendation was $250 a month. There was 8 months left in that year. I recommended that the stipend be $2,000 for the rest of that fiscal year. It was approved by the townspeople, but when it came up last year for fiscal year 2021, at the recommendation of the FinCom, they actually reduced the stipend to $166 and change per month. So I think it warrants this. Their concern at that time, the Finance Committee, was that there was not a Commission on Disability formed yet. Well, we have formed that. We have active members that are doing a lot of different work with the guidance of our ADA coordinator. So I fully support the reduced budget that's been suggested tonight.
I cannot see the figures, and I do apologize to everyone. I don't obviously have these figures, so can someone at least read 5105 to me in the green column?
That should be 8,000.
Thank you. Now, my question is, and I'm not, please everyone understand, I'm not saying I support it or not. Is this $8,000 a stipend, or is this something that's calculable hourly? What is the, yep, because that conversation has been raised, and I don't have an opinion, but what is, what's the commission's thought?
In our conversations with TA Mike Mullen, it is currently a stipend position, and it will remain a stipend position for FY22. I do think there is some appetite from TA Mullen to look into the duties and responsibilities of the ADA coordinator and the COD commission to see if that is a position that needs to be changed in the future. And that being said, that $8,000, I think what may have been mentioned previously is the way that we arrived at the 15.6 is looking at a roughly $30 an hour rate to round out that stipend amount for the entire year. But again, that being said, we were able to go back and have a discussion and really talk about what could we invest in this year, and maybe what can we continue to incrementally invest in as a town in the future.
I think what we also realize, if I can just add quickly,
of course,
is we recognize the amount of work that's involved to do what needs to be done for the town. We recognize, as someone alluded to in one of the earlier budget discussions, the work that we're doing, the work that we started, the work that we are continuing to do, and that the coordinator's position is continuing to do, has already saved the town potential thousands of dollars. It saves the town from potential future litigation, which could run into the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. But I think also something else that was alluded to earlier in the coordinator's position, which is that, you know, there was a comment made about certain people in certain situations having to quietly do the work that needs to be done in groups with other town officials around certain situations. That's part of what the coordinator's responsibility is as well. it's discussing a sidewalk or a ramp, or discussing something that has to be programmatically done in the schools, or working with the police department for anything, a system for communication for deaf. These are the kinds of things that the coordinator does behind the scenes. So I think what we recognize as well is that this position, however it's coupled, is relatively new to the town. It's only been a couple of years, 2.5 years, about 3 years that the town has been heard the term ADA coordinator and ADA commission. So we have work to do. We have work to do to make the town aware of the responsibilities that we have with us for the parks and recreation playgrounds or anything else.
Thank you, sir.
Make the town know who we are. So I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Thank you, sir.
We recognize that.
Sorry, the audio is going in and out. I can't hear you. Do we know what's going on?
In regards to your question,
Yeah.
this was discussed with a former town administrator. I had asked for a salary sheet recommending a stipend, and I now agree with that it'd be
Okay.
a stipend at this time.
Okay.
In the future,
I'm
we
okay
may look
with
at it
that.
differently with the new
I'm
town
okay with
administrator.
that.
but
I
just-
would be more likely to support a stipend because bigger changes come with, if it's hourly, then they're like an official employee that probably needs office space and a bigger conversation has to happen. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mr. Gale, but we're having an audio issue and the audio was not good. So what
I
is,
heard most of what I said.
I know the sentiment. What is the departmental total, the updated departmental total?
The departmental total, because there are no other additional funds, if we put the 8,000 together and the 4,320 together, the actual total value would be 12,320.
12,320. Thank you, sir. So you're requesting 0 and 5420 and 0 and 5,300, correct?
I cannot see the line items, so I'm going to leave Mr. Kowski to share that with you.
Sure, Jonathan, I don't think we voted to change those line items. We did take into consideration that the TA recommendations were significantly lower, and we were okay with that if need be. I don't think specifically, our vote only had to do with the changing of 5105 to the 8,000 at our last meeting.
So what is the total on this sheet that the town accountant has up? Because that will be the correct total.
Chris, would you be able to zoom out?
I'm gonna have to do some calculating here, folks.
No, it's already there. It's in the green column. Everything's already updated. Nope, you're on the wrong one. 549.
Yep. All right.
What is the total?
820 in the green right now.
Can someone read the total, please?
Chris, what do you say, like 16,820?
Yeah, what does that say?
16,820, Mr. Chair.
Is that the final answer?
I thought they left out two things and it's 12,320.
No, he was incorrect. They never changed 5420 or 5300. So the correct is, again,
$16,820.
okay, so I will entertain motion.
Wait a minute. Everyone else has had a shot.
I'm
It's my
sorry.
turn. What is 5580 auxiliary aids? I don't know what that is.
Mr. Chkowski or Mr. Gale? Selectmen, they can hear you, I'm
This,
sorry.
this is money that would be appropriated for the assistance of an employee in order to do their job under, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, Title IV.
Oh, reasonable assurance.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. This is.
All right, I understand. I just didn't, if you said reasonable assurance, I'd know what you meant. Auxiliary aids doesn't mean anything to me. I question the salary of $8,000. The Board of Selectmen gets 5. I want to point out, when we were the Board of Selectmen, Board of Health, we were getting 9 and change. That was reduced to $7,500 when we became the Board of Selectmen. Then it got reduced further on town meeting floor. How can we come up with a salary of $8,000 for this position? I know what the Board of Selectmen does. And quite frankly, if we tried to get the $3,000, that was the original plan that got cut, I think I would say, let's try that again and see what happens. I can't support $8,000 because your position is also intertwined with at least 3 other people who are full-time employees that have to be involved with decisions. They also, some of them deal at times with very private information. And then I will also say, if you get 3,000, what's the problem with volunteering the rest of your time, like most of us do? I am quite frankly fed up with creating positions and putting stipends or salaries of stuff when I look at the number of boards and committees in this town that get nothing, or they get piddling, because they volunteer the rest of the time. Period. What's wrong with volunteering?
I want to, if the Mr. Gale or Ms. Juchkowski wants to respond, and then I know, Mr. Administrator, I know you had something else as well, sir. Mr. Gale?
I would love to respond. I think as a town, it shows our values when we're willing to invest in a position. Right now, our town is not up to ADA compliance. We have buildings that are inaccessible to folks. We have playgrounds that are inaccessible to our children, and we have sidewalks that are inaccessible to folks. We have a lot of work to be done. And so while I agree that volunteering is incredibly important, and I spend much of my time volunteering for the town myself, and Mr. Gale goes above and beyond with that as well. I do think that this is an investment that the town should make, and we had a lot of that discussion. Earlier tonight, Nicole Mello and Kevin Smith were both on the call as well, but I think they dropped off prior to what was announced as the 8 p.m. deadline earlier. So they're not here, but Jocelyn Tavares is here as well. I don't know if Jocelyn has anything that she'd like to add.
Did you want to respond?
I think if Jocelyn...
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, Jocelyn, I'll wait.
I think one of the main considerations of the coordinator position is frankly the private data that position has to handle, potentially, with helping residents with personal information that the rest of the committee doesn't handle, which it separates the position from any old committee. And I think that's part of the designation. And just all the information we did receive from the Massachusetts Commission on Disability, that it segregated that specific role in towns that just requires the extra work and knowledge that just needs that. I don't think having that compensation is an issue.
Thank you.
I understand the volunteerism aspect of it, and I appreciate all the work that goes into, I mean, I'm on the commission myself, so I appreciate all the points taken, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you. And I am going to stop the meeting at 8:30, and it's 8:17, but absolutely you should get a chance to respond, and then I want to go to our town administrator.
Confidentiality and qualifications and willingness to volunteer have nothing to do with tacking money on it, whether you call it a salary or a stipend. From day one, when I came to this town as a appointed official, I've served with people literally for years and years and years that never got a dime. Even the finance committee. I mean, I think they might get up to $500 a piece now, but that's not the point. The point is, one of the reasons why this town has been financially in pretty good shape is the fact that we have so many volunteers. To say that somebody, in order to keep something in a confidential vein, has to receive a stipend, I don't buy it. I'm tired of creating jobs that I really think there should be some compensation. They should certainly get mileage if they have to travel. That's what I got when I used to go to Boston. But the fact of the matter is, I don't ask anybody to do anything I won't do myself. And quite frankly, when our salaries were cut to $5,000, the remark was made, I can do it. I said, I can do it too. Nobody sits on this board for $5,000 and thinks they're getting big money. But the workload on this board, quite frankly, is not comparable to any other board because it exceeds all of it. And when I look at this and say somebody should get $8,000 because of confidentiality, it doesn't fly. I'm willing to go back to the FinCom and say we tried to get this last year, the year before. It was reduced. We'd like to try, excuse me, we'd like to try that again. I think it's reasonable. I also heard that this might turn into a job. It started out at the higher number. I almost croaked when I saw that. But I think $8,000 is still too high. And as I said, I really think if you feel the position you hold is that important, personally, if the town couldn't afford it, I'd still do the job. I'd say, hey, I'll do it anyhow. It needs to be done. I don't need to be paid extra money to keep something confidential or because I have to work with other people in the town. It's just part of public service, and all public service is not paid service.
Can I ask you a question?
Mrs.
Well,
Goulart,
before we go to you, Mr. Gale, Selectman Goulart.
Yes.
The numbers that you see in the TA recommendations column, would that be something that you would be willing to support?
Absolutely, because there's the 3,000 that we had tried to get, or we were hoping to get. I mean, 12 months at $250 is $3,000. Let's face it, when the FinCom meeting took place, we're probably lucky we came out of there with anything. They were not in favor of funding this at all, but we got something. I think the TA recommendation is worth considering. People in this town keep saying, you gotta do something about taxes, you gotta do something about taxes. We sit here and try to do that to the best of our ability. But the reason we can do some of that is because we have so many unpaid volunteers, period. So yes, I would support the TA's recommendation because it would be going back to try to get the 3,000 that we couldn't get before and hope that that one passes.
Yes, Mr. Gale, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
That's okay, so I'm just gonna respond quickly because I know the TA wants to respond. So, first of all, I don't know where the 3,000 came from, the TA recommendation, and I say that only because when we met with the TA, the figure that we all agreed that we would be bringing to this evening's discussion was the $8,000 figure. So I may be wrong there, but that was my understanding, and I think Mr. Chakowski's understanding as well. With regard to the other comments that were made, I want to make it very clear and, very direct, for example. When I first started doing what I'm doing, and I've gotten many, many calls from different residents who have asked me to support their individual, private, personal needs for various things. I've been able to meet those needs in almost all cases, and by working with some other town officials, but mostly by working out of town, because that's a lot of what they require, going beyond the scope of other departments in the town. The other thing that I would say is that, yes, there are other departments and other officials in some respects that could pick up some of what you would say the coordinator should be doing, but I do want to point out that there are many things, for example, identified in the KMA report that were recently done by the town within the past 4 or 5 years that were not done correctly or up to code. And that's not just the buildings and grounds. So as much as you may feel that there are certain things that other town departments can do, I think what the KMA report shows is that there are other situations where those people who have that responsibility are not able to do it because they don't know the law, they don't know the procedure, and they don't know the criteria that you have to follow. So now those things have to be done again at increased costs.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Gale?
Sure.
And I'm always like a direct person. Would you be able to continue the work that you have started in concert with the COD Commission on the town administrator's recommendation? And by the way, we're using it looks like an old spreadsheet that has the original recommendation that I put in there when we met some time ago, maybe a month ago.
I think my answer to, are you referring to the 3,000 or the 8,000?
The 3,000.
I'm sorry?
The 3,000.
I think you're considering the amount of time and the amount of resource that has to be put in, and the professional qualifications that were alluded to in other conversations earlier by some of these same folks in the call right now. I think that puts me in a very, very difficult position. I'll just leave it at that.
And if I might add, going back to my statement about the values of our town places, if we value our disabled population, then we will invest in this position in order to make sure the work will be done for accessibility. So again, I stick in firm in my position that we need to invest in this position. We need to put our money where our values are as a town in order to continue this work.
I will just leave one last thought, which is although, we have new development in town and some large developments and so forth, I think what you also have to consider is that it's not just the schools and certain parts of the infrastructure that have to be worked on and then have the responsibility of the coordinator. But the town population overall is getting older, significantly older. And as a result of that, the amount of work that's required by an ADA coordinator is significantly increased because there are more residents of the populace that have to be served proportionately as the town population ages, and it is aging.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
All of
We
which
have to
can
make a
be done
decision.
without pay. And I had no intention of saying dumping work on other people. All of this work can be done without additional pay. I don't ask anyone to do anything I won't do myself.
I make the same
Period.
5,000. You're not mad at me, right?
Exactly, no, exactly.
She's looking at me. I'm like, no, I make the
Exactly.
same as you.
I just want to remind my colleagues
Sure.
that when we went before the Finance Committee the last time, I was the only one, with the exception of Mr. Gale, advocating for the $3,000. Other board members were silent on that, so now they're in favor of the $3,000, but they weren't speaking up at that Finance Committee meeting, saying that they supported the original recommendation, which was $250 a month. Did somebody else was there somebody else that wanted to speak on this that I thought I saw?
I know Mr. Gale had his hand up, but that was...
That was earlier,
Yeah.
Mr. TA.
There was another hand up from Mr. Woods.
Sure. The meeting is gonna stop literally in a minute.
Well,
And we're gonna stop this conversation after Mr. Wood's input, and then we're gonna go to Mr. Aguirre. We're gonna make a decision on this budget, hopefully. Mr. Wood, sir?
Robert Wood, 158 Chase Street. And I would have to agree entirely with Mrs. Goulart. And I would also like to say that Mr. Pacheco is famous for nickel and dime in every other budget. And from day one with the ADA and Mr. Gales, he has always supported any little thing that Mr. Gales wants. But, going back to last year when Tommy Ferry was looking for some extra hours for his secretary staff, Ken was all over that, saying, oh, we don't do that in the middle of the year. Knowing damn well that that was an important position and the work needed to be done. It just amazes me that Ken bends over backwards for this commission for whatever reason. And, they refer to it as hours, it's 10 hours now. He may need 15 hours. It's a stipend position. It's not paid for by the hour. And that's all I have. Thank you.
If I could just respond to Mr. Woods. So, as you may know, my 5-year plan, I have two things. One of them is removing the barriers in this town, such as the ramp, possibly putting an elevator in town hall. So this is something that's close to me, and I'm going to always advocate that this town become ADA compliant and that we remove the barriers for the public, for the residents of our town, and for the employees of our town. So I will always advocate for this, and I think that this is a reasonable recommendation on this, on the money that we're seeking. I will make a motion. I am going to reduce the professional and technical, my recommendations, reduce the professional and technical to $1,000. The office supplies I'm going to keep the same because I know that they're considering a mailer. So my recommendation that for account number 549, Commission on Disability, be $14,320.
I will second that. I will step down and second that for discussion. And what was the total on that?
$14,320.
I agree completely with making everything ADA compliant and do what we can. I also believe that when you have people who volunteer to hold a position, you've got to provide them with the supplies they need to do it. I don't certainly expect them to spend money out of their own pockets, whether it's travel, whether it's office supplies, postage, whatever. The small amount that's listed here is what was tried to get a couple of years ago. I didn't speak up then because I didn't think this position was going to go anywhere. The Finance Committee finally agreed to fund it. That's fine. All of the work that needs to be done can be done without going to an $8,000 stipend. That's my problem. I think the TA's recommendation is reasonable. I hope the FinCom considers it, But again, I don't want a person paying out of their own pocket, but I don't think we ought to give them a stipend or put them on the payroll. Not for all of it. Public service also has volunteerism. And if you're not part of the regular full-time or part-time employees, I don't have a problem with volunteering. And it doesn't diminish the value of what services are provided by volunteers, including myself.
Anybody else? I thought you had something that you wanted to add, and I apologize if I didn't get back to you.
So
If
no,
you
thank
don't,
you,
you
Ms.
could totally say no.
So no, thank you. Like, I just wanted to mention, I mean, I was asked, to offer insights. I did meet with members of the COD multiple occasions to try to get to the bottom of this. And one of the things, understanding, frankly, the lack of data, an understanding that I had about, exactly what the duties were, what job description was actually being worked off of. So, and also the interrelationship between the current ADA coordinator, and other departments and the workload. I was uncomfortable really recommending anything crazy additional. What I did say is I'd really like to further dive into it. And actually understand more of what the practical day-to-day stuff with the additional needs that may be coming along, and then based on that evaluation, recommending something that could be higher, that could be where we're at, or could be lower too. So I mean, I just wanted to say it was in 3 or 4 weeks' time. It's been difficult to do that assessment, so I just wanted to mention that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I know Mr. Gale had alluded to the spreadsheet earlier. That was the difference between your transition when you had started, and that's why the 8,000 wasn't there, and it was some old thing that I had put in there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And the figure is $14,320?
Yes.
Okay, let's take it to a vote. Selectman Pacheco?
Aye.
Selectman Goulart?
No?
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Okay. Now, on that figure that you gave, if you
Yes.
could make sure that that's reflected in the master
Yes,
budget
if you would make
after,
sure that
under
is
the Board of
reflected.
Selectmen's recommendation.
Thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Yes, absolutely.
I mean this in all seriousness and sincerely. I have no problem if you need to come back to talk about other budgets. I would much prefer having your attention and ending the meeting now and coming back when we do the other budgets.
Does the board want to do at least the gas, plumbing, electrical, public buildings?
That's what you wanted to speak on though, right? Is that?
I
Those
don't
are
feel like
business
those are
departments.
those are controversial.
How about if we just approve the warrants? Did I give that paper back to you, Mrs. Brady, the sticky? There was a sticky attached to one.
So if we don't finish the budgets, are we going to continue this to April 14th, or?
No, we said we
I
were gonna
think-
have another special.
Yeah, I think what we should do is have a short, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but they're all not big discussions. There were just some clarifications that were needed. If you
Sure, I'm
want,
okay with that. It's just that we keep on telling Mrs. Goulart this is her last
I know.
Board of Selectmen's
She's
meeting.
okay.
and-
Hey,
and then we.
She's okay.
We'll
She's
find
going along
some-
with it.
We will find somebody else.
It's the farewell tour.
We'll find
It's the farewell tour. She's like the share of.
Hey, we'll
Board of
find out,
Selectmen.
we'll
It
find
just
somebody
keeps
else who
going.
wanted to come that hasn't come.
She's waiting to
That
see
was-
what's
that's
on the
beautiful.
table next week.
You
So
can't,
I'm thinking maybe we could have a short meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, I just feel bad
The
that
seventh?
Mr. Aguirre's been here all this time.
April 7th, Wednesday. Does that work?
I think it works for me.
April 7th, 6 PM?
6 o'clock.
Sounds good. So let's move on to the warrants, if that's okay, if we have them.
You don't have, there was a sticky, remember I said I had a... And we switched. Oh, wait a minute, here's a sticky, stuck to something.
What were you saying, Selectman?
No, is it reasonable then that we have an executive, since we think it's going to be a short meeting?
We are gonna have it
the
next
executive,
Wednesday.
rather than wait until the 14th?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
because I know there were some things that we
Yes,
needed to.
yeah.
Okay,
Is that
so
okay?
That's
Um,
great, that sounds great, thank you.
I
So-
should really be asking Mrs. Brady. I'm sorry, Mrs. Brady. She's
I
like
didn't
another
think,
meeting.
I just thought I saw her roll her eyes.
Yeah. We'll get the video from cable.
So we, okay, so we set the date for the next special meeting, April the 7th at 6 PM, right? Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 39A-21 in the amount of $102,801.53 payroll. 39B-21 in the amount of $24,646.59. 39C-21 in the amount of $187,238.63, the last two being accounts payable, all dated March 24th, 2021, be approved.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Public input. If you have public input, I just ask that you unmute yourself. Please state your name and your address and be respectful. Hearing no further public input, I did just want to thank all the people who worked so hard to put together the Medal of Honor ceremony today. I want to thank our town administrator, Mr. Mike Mullen. I want to thank Mr. Don Hershey, who is a volunteer in the Veterans Department and our former Veteran Services Officer. I want to thank Mr. Robert Woods, Mr. Timothy Rhines, and anyone else.
Mr. Tom
Colonel
Ferry.
Perry. Yep.
Mr. Tom Ferry for the bridge signs.
For the
Former
bridge
town administrator.
dedication. And our former town administrator, Mallory Aronstein, for their hard work in bringing everything together. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and thank you for allowing us to be part of that.
Thanks for taping it, Cable. Looking forward to seeing
Yes.
it.
The unsung heroes, who are now the sung heroes. Good work, everybody. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. The farewell tour continues. We'll see you next Wednesday.
So